Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Today, we're looking at the Cobra Terror Drome, one of the bigger, most iconic kind of play sets that we got outside of looking at the USS Flag. Uh, Probably a little bit more common in some regards. I want to say I could be completely wrong. It's not like I ever had this thing as a kid. I do have um, a Lego version of it. It's not from Lego itself, but it's from Creo when Hasbro had done the Creo line. So, um, the Cobra Terradrome with the Firebat was first released as a box set in the United States in 1986, including the Fire Bat and the pilot uh, AVAC, AVAC. The Terradrome with Firebat is also sold in 87 and discontinued domestically in 1988. The secret launch mechanism activates silo doors and the elevator raises the Firebat for launch, which it still does. Well, no, it doesn't. You have to kind of open it manually, but they still have that feature in there. It's just that you have to open it manually, and the Firebat was separately for the Creo line, so um, it's still really cool and impressive to say, hey, they came out with it. I wish that Hasbro had kept going on with their Creo line, but Hasbro being Hasbro, they do what they do. Okay, so this is, I will call it a front view because that's what they have it listed as. And yeah, it kind of is. We have the two cannons here. So very iconic. Most of the time, I think we only really see this at the very opening of the show. So it is interesting. It is a fun little play set if you ever have it. My Creo version of it is it yeah takes me back to being a kid for a few minutes, and it is fun. It really is. Okay, um, so here's the rear view, and then we have some smaller cannons. These are the big cannons on the front side, so we do have some smaller cannons on the side over here. And of course, you see the side view. So you have a top cannon, some side cannons there, um, and same thing on the other side. Nice top-down view. So really on the top, we have room for just sitting purpose-wise, six figures. We have computer consoles and everything else that are here, but in the cartoon, they make this thing look so much bigger. Um, and it really is a spectacular thing. I mean, even being a small version, it's still fun to let your imagination run wild and think what it was supposed to be, this huge base. Um, and underneath there, and I'm sure we're going to get some nice views because we have 30 views. We're on the ninth one here. Um, the internals, and they even put it in on the Creo one. Um, just the stuff on the inside to say, hey, here we have what looks like a vehicle bay, which I believe that's what this is. Here's our gunner station. We have a walk through door over here. Um, the other side, this door does open so you can get to your figures in there. And I believe they had a prison cell in there, beds, a lot of different cool things to make this seem, here's your prison cell, um, like it was a big base. Of course, we have to have it small because most parents aren't going to give up that much room. That's why I feel that this was probably as a set for a play set for kids. This was probably purchased a little bit more often than probably the flag. Because with the flag, let's be honest, you could probably use any kitchen table and let some kids' imagination run wild with that. So, but looking at this, I mean, it's look at all the figures they were able to put in on this and take this picture. I mean, it is a large set to begin with, not as big as the flag, but it is still really awe-inspiring. Even as an adult, all these years later, it's still very awe-inspiring. And I loved the Firebat in the cartoon. Um, Honestly, to me, for Cobra, yeah, the Rattler was good. I think the Rattler, the Firebat, and then the Cobra Fang are and then the Trouble Bubble. Okay, four of them are really the iconic airborne vehicles for Cobra. Um, and if you can have a number of those, I think you have everything you really need for Cobra. If you're running it as play sets and stuff like that, um, instead of maybe going for the Rattler right now, I think maybe if they did the Fire Bat, we already have the Trouble Bubble. Get the Fire Bat out, and a Fang. I think that would really please a lot of people. Um, I know that people are looking for different things that they can use as substitutes, which I'm starting to look for myself because it's an interesting prospect here. Okay, so easily broken or lost parts. Now, this has got a lot of different things here on the playset. Of such a large size, many pieces are frequently missing or broken. Most commonly missing are the two door struts, any number of the gun caps, both large and small, the hoses and nozzles for the fueling stations, and the four gun chairs up on top there. The most commonly broken include the 8 doors. The posts on the gun doors are very fragile and very prone to breakage, while the bay doors can break at the securing tab. The gun turrets have a small piece of rigid plastic that breaks easily, making the guns limp. The hose attachment peg for the fuel station and the clamps on the door strut. So, um, it just kind of is what it is. All right, so looking at Sunbow, see, this is the very opening, and this is what I was trying to talk about, where this thing was so much bigger in the cartoon. Um, and then there we are, we have another view of it, and again, it's a different one, but look how big this is. All these massive guns and turrets or landing platforms for either fangs or trouble bubbles or whatever have you. Um, it's plenty of room there, and like a sentry post sitting here. And in my mind, almost like out of Star Wars. Um, and here we are. Here's a smaller version, and it's not to say that they wouldn't have done large versions, smaller versions, all that. So, um, let's see if I can read this. This is small on my laptop, so please bear with me. Um, 21 of 1986 Cobra Terror Drome, named for its awesome presence. The huge Cobra Fortress was meant to be the first in a line of Cobra playsets. It featured many of the gun emplacements, control rooms, weapon armories, and communication stations, along with a hidden silo which launched the Firebat attack jet. Unfortunately, it did not perform as expected, and plans for a Cobra Island playset were abandoned. But the whole thing is, and I'm just going to be honest here. Think of how much this thing had probably cost at the time, which was a lot of money, I'm sure. And here we have for the arcade, and here's the commercial, and there we are. So let's look down here and see. Okay, so this was $45, which is, we're spending $25 for a figure today. So $45 back 40 years ago was quite a bit of money. Um, and the whole thing is trying to get the parents to want to fork over that money for something this big that, yeah, it would make little Johnny or, Susie even very happy. Um, but on the other hand, it's quite a bit of money for a parent to throw down at that time. Um, I don't know personally anybody that really had one. Okay, my best friend, he told me that he had um, the flag because his grandparents had bought it for him or whatever. Um, Not that I had ever seen it because I met him later, and it wasn't there anymore. And I had gotten his Sky Striker, which was at that point missing parts and pieces, but it was still cool to say, hey, I had this, and here we are. We're later teens and whatever, but to me, it's still trying to grab that nostalgia and everything else. I've always been a goofball, a little bit of wanting to be a collector on things that like I've said many times, my parents were going to invest this. There was three of us boys. They weren't going to invest almost $50 for a toy for one of us. Where, um, my older brothers were older, and it's not like the three of us were going to sit there and play with this all together. If that would have been the issue, I think it would have been a little bit more of a selling point. Hey, the three of us will play together. If you have the oldest kid into this, and then you have younger siblings that would be playing together, I could see a family spending the money on this, but otherwise, most likely not. Okay, so looking at the Cobra Terra Drome here for our GI Joe Star Wars configuration here. I put this at Starfighter scale, you know, for this version. Now, if you wanted to make this bigger and double it, have the four cannons here, um, you know, because we've seen different sizes. I'm just going off of the toy itself here. So let's just bear with it at mine just for that. So this is a smaller outpost, and let's just put it in the perspective of this is the Cobra's answer to the GI Joe battle platform, which I believe we've already hit. Um, so in that regard, you know, um, similar scale or use kind of situations here. All right. So this is meant for a crew of six because this is the small version. We can have about eight extra people there for whatever missions they're going to have. I didn't put in a cargo capacity because I figured this is ground based. Um, chances are you're going to have this down as a secure base, and because we have refueling stations and everything else, we're going to start making a small field around here that we will drive up to, fuel things up, whatever, and then go and take off. Um, Trying to put it into a perspective here, and I'm thinking of World War II, and I'm failing at. There was a line of a leftover, really, line of trenches and all that stuff from France that the Germans had taken over. And I can't remember the name of it. So if you know it and you're screaming at the computer, that's, or your TV or whatever you're watching this on, that's perfectly fine. But think of it in that regard. If Cobra was to put a series of small versions like this out, and whether they then came up with a pipe system underneath that they could, refuel from somewhere else or whatever, or they had to drive, tanker trucks over to keep fueling available. Um, and then when GI Joe would come up to them or whatever, they'd have to battle a bunch of these. There's, you could do it in that regard, or maybe it's just a certain location they just want to start getting a base. They can fly this, land it, and then go away, and just leave a small outpost here. All right, those are my ideas. I am giving it a full coverage here because if you're inside, yeah, if you're on top, probably about a half coverage. Of course, it's on the ground. There's no maneuverability. It's an emplacement here. I give it a body strength of 5D. Now, this is Starfighter scale, so keep that in mind. That's heavier than your tank because that's Walker scale. Um, so that's why I left it at Starfighter. I didn't go higher. I wanted to keep it kind of consistent in that regard. I figured it's going to be a little bit heavier armor than a tank. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we should take this down to a Walker scale, which would then make it about our tank. So we have the two of these, the twin heavy blaster cannons. These are turreted. Has a fire control of 2D. I kept it at our standard here, and it has a damage of 5D at Starfighter scale. So that's if it hits a tank. If GI Joe is hitting it with a tank, that means that it's going to be 7D for damage. Now, if they were using a lighter vehicle that was at speeder scale, it's going to be at 9D, but you're going to minus 2D for trying to hit it because it's a smaller vehicle. So do keep that in mind. We do have two double heavy blasters, side arcs, and actually that should have two on there, and I didn't put that in, so it's always wonderful whenever I see that. Hey, I goofed it. And here we are. Did I do that wrong? I did that wrong. All right. Um, and these are at speeder scale. So this is a lot smaller, and these are at 4D. Um, and it has a 1D plus one, figuring on the inside because these are the ones that are sitting out here. Um, and depending on how you want to do this, if you want to, like I said, if you want to expand this out and say it's a larger version, maybe what we could do is we could just double the weapons here. We could say that we have four up for the large cannons and then four of the smaller cannons down below. And maybe it has a bigger hangar bay inside for the fire bats or something. And then we start seeing the next vehicle down below. Um, that's the only weapons we really have here. Now, the fire bat will come in on its own, and we will have that one as its own vehicle because I think it deserves to be its own vehicle, whether it's used in this regard or separate. Um, but this is what I have for this. And like I said, keep in mind, depending on how big or small you want to have it, if you want to keep it this small 6-man team operational emplacement, fine. If you want to grow it in size, I think I would still keep the body strength at 5D, but then let's just start doubling the weapons or keep it in groups of two. So if we want to grow it one size bigger, then I think we would have 4 cannons up here. If we want to go another size bigger, then we would have 6. Okay. um, to a limit, I would say if we start getting like 8 gun emplacements, you might want to take this from starfighter scale to maybe capital scale. But now keep in mind what's as my mind is running faster than my mouth. At what scale do you want to keep your weapons here? I would say keep them no higher than Starfighter because that keeps everything kind of balanced here. It's just that huge of a base, that much armor to get through, but um, the weapons are still going to be at the same size. And like I said, there is that downfall. Now, we only have a fire control of 2D. If you want to increase that to a 4D, that means that whenever you're attacking a tank, you only have a 2D on there, um, which is very possible. Uh, and if you want to create a kind of a gunner character for this, because we haven't done anything with characters, and I don't know if I will. Um, and I'm going to tell you a little secret here. If I'm running this as a campaign, I'm going to steal the stormtroopers, the clone troopers, stuff like that, the different ones of those to throw in here. Okay, because I think we already have good stats in that regard. I will just change them, change the name, probably put them in certain places. Um, I think that would be very fitting, and it saves me as a game master a lot of time trying to recreate stuff that's really already made. I'm just trying to bring the flavor of this in. Okay, we want to have the flavor. We want to feel like it's GI Joe. The characters themselves, we could grab this one or that one or whatever. Um, Even if you wanted to do that for the Joes themselves, if you want to grab Duke is this one, say like Commander Cody or something, or if you have a favorite character that is from somewhere else, from the original series or whatever, you can always do that. Okay. Remember, this is your game, your creation. I'm giving ideas here. If you want to grab what I have, wonderful. I am happy. I'm happy to be able to share this. That's why I'm doing this, so that way other people can do the same thing I'm doing here. Okay, I haven't gotten the guys into doing this yet. Maybe in a future date we will. Right now we're still doing Fallout, which I have to come up with another map for. So we're going to be hitting that sometime soon too. So everything ties together. I do a lot of role playing stuff. I've been doing it for a long time. I love the D6 system because it's nice and easy, and the guys don't need the books. That's why I love the system. It's very easy to work with, and very easy for the guys. They can come in, play. They don't have to spend a lot of time trying to figure things out, passing books around. D&D is very notorious that everyone really needs to book. The Fallout that's done, um, is not all that bad. The guys, they do have their own book. Because usually I'm the guy that gets all the books, but my best friend, he's got a copy of the book, and trying to level it, we can do that in like 5 minutes with everyone around the pool table, and we're good. Um, However, it works around your kitchen table or whatever other table you're using. Of course, everything's done on my pool table, which gets used for everything but pool. It's just the whole thing of, is it something easy and something easy to work with? That's why I like the D6 system. Doing the Fallout is not that different from it in a lot of regards. Doesn't mean I couldn't modify things to whatever, but I have more experience in doing this, so I feel more comfortable doing this. It's a comfort zone thing for me, um, and that's why it works for me. Whether it works for you or you take this idea and you put it into something else, that's on you. Go for it. If I can give you the idea and it helps you play a better game, wonderful. So, with that, I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks for visiting. We'll see you in the next video.